didn't see you there.
Something big is going on here.
From hunting ghosts to Bigfoot.
Paranormal, UFOs, true crime, and more.
We won't just be spouting articles.
I was researching for your entertainment.
The beginning of a new world.
The best guac you'll ever fucking eat.
True story.
It's basically like one day you walk outside and you see that the ants are playing with matches.
This is the Black Cat Report. See you on the other side.
You are sleeping in your home, nice and safe in your bed. The cool night breeze is blowing in the hotness of the night, so you leave your window open to cool off the house. In the stillness of the night, there's stirring outside. Footsteps move around your house, but you don't wake up because you're fast asleep. The doorknob rattles, then stops. The bedroom window slides slowly up, and then bam!
Welcome to the Black Cat Report. Today we are covering Richard Ramirez. I'm your host, Betsabe, and joining me is Selena.
Hello, I'm so excited.
Joey.
I am also very excited.
And Gil.
I'm exhausted.
We are so excited to present one of the most notorious and malicious serial killers in the U.S. history. A man who goes by many names: the Midnight Stalker, the Walk-In Killer, the Valley Intruder, the Screen Door Intruder, and
I know, that one
Richard
was lame.
Mena. The screen door intruder is like, okay.
They're like,
the
huh,
Valley
he
walking
goes through the
screen door
screen
intruder.
door. And he kills.
The Valley
I
walking
read,
screen
like-
door intruder.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, obviously that is what he did. Using a few sources listed in the show notes and the wonderful book The Night Stalker by Carlo, this is a really in-depth book that goes through his time from being a newborn all the way until his death. This is a comprehensive look into his life and how he turned into the Midnight Stalker. It's also available on audiobook if you don't like to read, so lock your doors, close your windows, and grab your baseball bats as we delve into the snap, crackle, and pop of serial killer Richard Ramirez.
Do you get it? The snap, crackle, and pop?
Ooh,
I did not get that.
Like it.
yeah.
Because of the cereal.
Mhm.
Ah.
Cool.
What did you guys think?
Thank
I
you,
don't-
Selena.
I
Thank
don't
you.
know.
I was thinking. I was thinking of like people's bones
Those Rice
snap, crackling, and
Krispies.
popping.
It's a
And I
double
was like-
entendre.
Selena and I have been cleaning our new house that we're renting. We're not fancy enough or cool enough to buy a house yet, but we're renting one. It's dirty as hell. And so snap, crackle, and pop. I'm like, that's me on top of all the step stools today. Like, I'm just,
Oh,
That's your knees.
yeah. So this is perfect to learn about just before we move into a new place in a neighborhood. We don't
yay.
know. I am excited.
Yes.
Yes.
I done knew about this. I'll protect you, Gil.
Thank you, baby.
Oh.
My sweet, naive Gil.
Yes.
You mean we gotta lock our doors? I'm
What
just kidding.
the
He's
hell?
always like, he's always reminding me to lock the doors.
Good. Someone has
And
to.
I grew up near the projects.
And I grew up in the country. This shit's fucked. All right. That's a bay.
All right. Ricardo Leiva Muñoz Ramirez was born in El Paso, Texas on February 28, 1960. He was the youngest of 5 kids. His brothers and sisters were named Robert, Ruth, Joseph, and Ruben. His father, Julian Ramirez, was a Mexican immigrant who was a former police officer in Ciudad Juarez. When he immigrated to El Paso, he became a labor. What's Atchison?
Atchison, yeah.
Okay.
To-
What does that mean?
What is that?
Yeah, what
Atchison.
does that mean?
Atchison is the name of the town
Atchison?
Oh, a laborer in Atchison?
for the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway. Yeah.
Ah.
The name of the
Oh.
towns of the...
Oh.
Yeah.
He was a railroad worker in
Yep.
somewhere, Texas. Is that right?
Yep.
Cool.
Texas and Kansas.
His mother, Mercedes, was also a Mexican immigrant moving with her husband Julian to El Paso, where she got a job at a at a boot factory. As we all know, in the 50s and 60s, things weren't as up to code as they are now. She was exposed to very harmful chemicals that affected the birth of their children. All of their children developed birth defects from bone abnormalities to respiratory problems. The climate they grew up in was completely transformative as the world was changing so much after the booming 1950s. A gallon of gas was 31 cents, nice. A pack of cigarettes was only 40 cents, amazing. Not that I smoke, but for people that do, they're saving money. And your house didn't even have a zip code yet. I had no idea. I thought zip
Yeah,
codes
zip
were
codes.
from the beginning.
Nope, they weren't invented yet because there wasn't as many people needing to do it yet.
Mm,
Hmm.
wow.
Damn.
There were
Mail was
civil
for
rights
special people.
rallies, political assassinations. The wars were turning much, much colder. And in all of the things, there was even the summer of love. All of this is what kids at that time were experiencing, seeing and imprinting in their minds. Would it always be like this? Would all of this change?
So a lot of those things were happening at this time period. So he was seeing all of this on TV and imprinting in his mind what things that were going on, especially a lot of the racial things that were happening, because it wasn't just happening to black people in that time. It was also happening to Mexicans and Latino people as well. So all along, and like later on we'll find out that his sister was part of a group that was like protesting for Latino people in Texas to kind of get very same rights as well. So the whole family did not get screwed up as he did. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
that was
Her
he was
bones were weak, but her brain was strong.
mhm.
60
Yep.
Nice.
so like 68, one of the most revolutionary years in like the Western world, and like honestly in a just all over the world. There were revolutions happening everywhere. There was
Mhm.
the 68 like Situationist International in Paris. Fascinating fucking history if you ever get a chance to look at it. The prime minister of Paris literally fled the fucking country on a helicopter thinking that he lost France to a
Yep.
rebellion that was taking place. Like 1968 was fucking insane. You had shit going on with the Black Panthers. You had the Brown Berets like going
Yep.
on in New York. You had the White Panthers popping up like out in LA, which was a response to Huey P. Newton and everybody. They were like, it was white folks who were like, yo, we ain't down with this racism shit. Like,
Mhm.
we want to fucking support the cause. And he's like, well, start a fucking chapter. White, so like you know, the White Panthers popping up, Black Panthers, obviously. And then the next goddamn year, when he was 9 years old, right? We fucking landed on the moon.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Like, that's fucking nuts. So this is fucking wild. But yeah, shit was popping off left and right.
Yeah, and the Vietnam War will play a huge part of this story too.
So, as we're saying all this, you can tell that Richard grew up in this very transformative time with five siblings. His dad was very abusive physically and mentally towards him, his brothers and sisters, and also to his wife, Mercedes. He will beat them up, and especially when they got into trouble, like stealing cars or getting into drugs, the normal.
Normal kid shit. Yeah.
Normal kid stuff. So at this time, this wasn't abnormal in the 1960s to be disciplined by your parents in a very physically way for breaking laws or disobeying. But
Hmm.
Julian, the dad, was prone to fits of anger, so the discipline would go far beyond that. Richard, at a very young age, would watch his brothers and sisters be beaten for even the smallest things, like probably stealing gum. I don't know.
Hmm.
But eventually, the physical abuse would then turn to Richard, since I guess he's the youngest of all of them. Yeah, so sad.
I just want to
Yes.
like put it in perspective. My mom and her like 7 siblings or 6 siblings. I don't know if there's 7 altogether, but
Yeah, same. My mom.
their mom
Hmm.
used to like discipline them very severely. And now she's like the sweetest grandmother to me, but they grew up with
That
a different
always
woman.
happens.
Mhm.
Yeah, they grew
Yeah.
up with a whole different lady.
Yeah.
Same with my mom. Like my grandma, she was so sweet to me. And then
Yeah.
now my mom is doing the same thing because my mom, like, she wasn't bad. I mean, you guys know my mom, but like she was pretty harsh on my sister Janet. And like now with Jojo, like, oh my god, Jojo can get away with anything, and my mom is just like a totally different person that she was with Janet. And I'm
Mm.
just like, mm.
I've seen the way she treats Bon Bon, and it's
I
just like
know.
can do no wrong. But I will say, like, my dad grew up. My dad was born in 1933, thus my name's Gilbert. And so like a lot of those old school chastising, your kid kind of ways like passed over, and yeah, I'm glad we've moved on from that. The
Yes.
culture. I'm glad. I'm
Yeah.
glad it's something that people need to be ashamed of if they're doing that
Yeah.
to their kids now, because
Mhm. Yep,
if
yep.
you're really fucking horrible to your kids over anything, guess how they're going to look at like crime and punishment, like
Yep.
in the legal system? They're going to be like, it's not even that fucking bad.
Yeah.
Like, why does that fucking matter? Like, you fuck up their perspective on like how they view punishments and
Yeah.
like reactions to crimes and shit. So it's just like, yeah, steal a car, whatever. What are they gonna do? Put me in jail and feed me? It's better than my parents. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, for
so
sure.
like
Yeah.
it kind of fucks up their perspective. But
And
yeah,
a little
so
a little
go
background
ahead.
on Julian, the dad, from listening to the audiobook, because I'm the one that doesn't read. I
Hey, I
he
like audiobooks.
they're great, and especially for this
Yeah.
book, it was a really good, really well read. But the dad, he was beaten by his father, and he said when he had kids with his first kids, he said, "I'm never gonna treat my kids like that." And then
Well,
slowly, because he had fits of anger, and he started starting beating
he
him, and
used,
then he was physically abusive. Yeah, kind
but
of just like
he used a belt instead of a switch. Like that is
yeah,
so progressive for him.
got a little
This
smaller.
piece of shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tiny smaller. Yeah.
He went green, stopped cutting down tree branches to like slap the shit out of his kids, and he used his belt, his renewable resources.
Which was
So like,
also a leather belt made from a cow, so it was
yeah. It was before vegan leather. We can
yeah,
get into
And he
yeah,
would
this,
yeah,
hit
but,
them with the buckle.
Yep. Oh yeah.
oof. I'm pretty sure I got some spots on my booty from that. But
Yeah,
yes,
that
all
happened
right,
to
that's
me.
up.
so as a kid, Richard was a tireless child. He would play outside by himself when his brothers and sisters were at school. He would play the usual cowboys and Indians in the yard. And a neighbor would say that he was doing very strange things in the yard. Okay. Sure.
So he would play Cowboys and Indians, but since
By
he was
himself.
like he was by himself, yeah,
Yeah.
because
Oh my god, no.
his brothers were at school, so he
So
didn't have anyone
strange.
around. So he would play Cowboys and Indians, and he would play both parts. So he
Yeah,
was an
so-
actor. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Half of his face was painted cowboy.
It looked
the other
weird.
half
It looked
was
Yeah.
like a
weird.
stereotype
Yeah.
of Indian, and he would just walk 5 feet and turn the other way.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like
how are you
he'd be
doing
like-
today? Welcome to my lands. This ain't gonna be your lands much longer. Ding! Like, pew pew,
Yeah,
pew
like-
pew, and runs over to the other side. Pew pew.
it's like
pew,
blah
pew.
blah 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 blah, and then like run over to the other side, turn around, blah 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 blah. That's what he was doing. So they were like, "Hey, is your kid okay?"
Does he like know we're watching him, or does he just do this on his own? That kid's gonna be the greatest actor of all time.
I know. I mean, like, just like I was, he was very prone to accidents, especially of the make of a serial killer kind.
Just a lot of head
Not that I
injuries.
was. My accidents were totally different. Non-serial.
I have a head
killer.
injury.
I did too. I broke my nose and a bunch of stuff. But when
Owie.
he was 2 years old, he was dancing around in his room and he tried to reach for this radio on top of a dresser, and the whole dresser fell on top of him at 2 years old. Like, he got smushed.
I'm
Like,
sorry.
that's insane.
I'm sorry, but like, what kind of sketchy ass dressers? It's like, I'm just gonna change this. Like, you know, like, what? How was this positioned that a dresser
what I think.
falls on somebody?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay,
what the
old-
fuck is?
But like, he
Okay,
was 2 years
wait.
old. How is this
I-
possible? He's a
I
tiny
don't
little
know.
thing.
So old-timey dressers are pretty like long and kind of short. And if he was trying to reach for a radio, like on a dresser, not like on a, you know, whatever the fuck that is, but like he could have been climbing on top, and because it's heavy with the clothes in the drawers in the front,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
topples over. Because I have tried to move a drawer on my, or like a thing on my
Dresser.
own, and yeah, if there's clothes in it, it makes it fall forward.
Okay,
Yeah,
that makes
I
sense.
mean-
I was just picturing him like standing on his tippy toes, like, and I'm gonna put it on 93.5 Kiss FM. Oh God! Just socks
I'm
and underwear
amazed
everywhere.
that didn't kill him because again, he's 2 years old. But yeah,
Mhm.
that didn't kill him. It just caused a laceration on his head that required 30 stitches on a 2-year-old kid. Wow.
Dang.
That's like half
I
his
know.
body.
Mhm.
Yeah, like it
Exactly.
smashed him like a lemon and his skin split.
Mhm.
Exactly. That's
Proof.
insane.
Proof time travelers are real because somebody went back and pushed that fucking dresser.
Seriously.
Damn it.
Yes. So at the age of 5, he was knocked unconscious by his sister Ruth as she was on a swing. Like, poor kid.
Mhm.
After this incident, he started like experiencing a bunch of seizures. His
Aw.
first epileptic seizure happened in 5th grade. So he was taken home by his mother after that, and he was put into bed. And the next day, he returned to school and then had another seizure. But this time, he was taken to the hospital, and he was told that he would grow out of the seizures. Thanks.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, so sad. He was diagnosed with grand mal seizures,
Mhm.
and he would like every day he just like started staring at the wall for like 10 to 15 minutes straight, having petit mal seizures, which was diagnosed later, which blows my mind because again, he's like 5 years old.
It's a
Yeah.
grand wall seizure.
Grand Mal.
Like, that's so sad.
And I do picture a time traveler dressed as his sister within the swing incident. Just
Yeah.
like turns and looks at the camera, wig on, like clearly not his sister. It's like, I'm
my
gonna
God.
get him.
He was really
Sorry.
close to his sister too, like Ruth, his one sister, and he was like super protective of her. So every time he saw her, he really loved her. And like
Aw.
so every time like his two brothers, the two oldest brothers, I think Ruben and Robert would like hit her or like be really mean to her, he'd stand in the middle and be like, "No, you can't mess with my sister," you know, and he was like very protective. So every time he saw her, he was super happy. So like he came to the playground and saw her swinging and like ran up to her, and before she could stop swinging, she like smacked him in the head and knocked him out.
Aw.
And like it's so sad, but yeah.
In all fairness to her, she was on like a very planned trajectory swinging, and
Yeah,
he
for
ran directly in front of her. So
Yeah.
Well,
like,
he was 5.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's 5. He doesn't know any better.
He doesn't understand physics.
I know.
again, the dresser situation.
Yeah. I mean,
Still-
I don't judge him because I used to do shit like that all the time as a kid. Like, I was just like, I broke all my fingers. Well, this is gonna start getting even like sadder and
Yeah.
darker. So, you guys
Alright.
ready?
Yeah.
During his school age, his brothers were sexually abused by a teacher named Frank McMahon, and more than likely sexually abused Richard as well, although Richard himself said he could not remember and most likely blocked it out. And that's very true. A lot of people block things like that because obviously they don't want to remember that. He also witnessed another pedophile that lived down the road. Rape and sodomize a boy. As he moved on through school, he became the quarterback of his school's football team. He was, by all accounts, a great athlete who could run very fast and also think quickly on his feet, which surprises me considering everything that happened to him when he was a child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like
It
what?
was it was all actually just like him building up a resistance to severe head injuries. So he did great in football. Like it was just no matter
Yep.
how many, like they were like,
He didn't
oh,
even wear a
that's
helmet.
that's
Mhm.
Frank the Tank.
I know.
That's Timothy the Dresser. And you're just like, all right, motherfucker, I got you.
Yeah.
It was all training for this fucking moment. The entire
Mhm.
opposing football team were time travelers trying to stop him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but sadly, at the end of a football game, he suffered a grand mal seizure and was kicked off the football team. So,
Damn.
That's some bullshit.
He
Like,
so
you
so
have,
the,
That's
you
like
have a seizure, so they kick you off the team. Like, you wussy little fucker. Like, what? What?
no, the coach actually described it as he didn't want him to have a seizure and die on the field because he felt like he would be responsible for that. And he
that
felt
is
like that would be
Nah.
his fault. So he felt like, hey, this is like I am protecting these kids. It wasn't Frank McMahon, so he wasn't a dick. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
protecting these kids. I don't want this guy
Yeah,
to die,
I respect
you know,
that.
on the field. And yeah, I know he loves playing football, but he did explain to him.
That
Yeah,
seems
yeah, yeah.
too insightful for any high school football coach I've ever met. Like, they're just like, run, you maggots, burn, throw up. They're just like, why did you gain 1.5 pounds? Throw up now in front of me. And just like, and give me push-ups. Like, when has there ever been, like, this is the problem. This is why all high school football coaches, who generally are also math teachers, I don't know if anybody else has noticed that. But like, this is why all of them
PE
need to
teachers usually.
continue the abuse. They need to keep it up, because how else are we going to get our athletes? How else are we going to get our star athletes that are dealing with like a degenerative brain disorder by the time they're 32 if they don't start the abusive process like early?
We need
I'm just saying.
entertainment. We do. We need entertainment.
Richard
Yeah.
Ramirez is because somebody cared. Like, he should have died on the field playing the
God.
time travelers. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Okay.
Sad. But yeah, I mean, what this whole getting kicked out of the football team would turn into a big sticking point for Richard as he would grow up, often saying it wasn't his fault that he had blackouts. I mean, obviously, which is totally understandable because he was never offered nor prescribed any time of medication to help with his seizures. Like that, I mean, the family can totally sue them for that because that's insane. So at the age of 10, Richard would sneak out of the house and sleep in the cemetery to escape his father's wrath and also the chaos that was happening in the house with his brothers, drug use, and criminal activities. Poor thing. At age 12, Richard will become very close to his cousin Miguel, or Mike as he was called. And that's not a good thing because he was not a good person.
Mm-mm.
Miguel was a veteran from the Vietnam War. He had 29 confirmed kills and fit in war like a glove. He enjoyed that he could kill and vent his anger and not be punished for it. Richard revered Miguel as a war hero. Insane. They would cruise around town and smoke pot. Miguel would tell Richard war stories about killing and how it made him feel. He said having the power of life and death was a high and incredible rush. It was a godlike to control over who lived and died. I felt like a god. Really? Like, I mean, no wonder. Like
Yeah, and
this is the
like
sentence
not
where
only
it all started.
yeah, not only that, but like he would show him pictures of women that he murdered in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
Like
just sick.
like beheaded women that were naked and like tied up women that were like covered in blood. Like he just had these photos and it was like porn. He'd be like, check it out, dude, look at this. And whoa, and it's insane.
Yeah, yeah,
He was
no,
like
that's
so desensitized to it at that time because there was so much violence and everything happening around him
It's almost
that
like
he glorified it. He was like, I've never had power before in my life, and that sounds amazing.
if you take folks from communities that you've intentionally set up to produce children with troubled like childhoods and then put them into a situation where validation is based off around like intense violence and mutilation. It affects the way they see the rest of the world when they get exposed to that at like 16, 17 years old. I'm just really incredibly grateful that that's still not happening today and that we've overcome this.
It's
You know,
almost like, yeah, almost like.
so yeah, like Selena was saying, yeah, Miguel kept photos of his rape and torture of Vietnamese people and would share them and gloat over these photos to Richard. And he's a teenager seeing this, listening to everything that Miguel is basically putting in his brain. So one photo particularly affected Richard, a black and white photo of a Vietnamese woman with a gun to her head being raped.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Another photo was the decapitated head of the same woman, and Richard would admit that he would get sexually aroused looking at these photos. He would often masturbate thinking about these photos, knowing the feeling of doing this was wrong.
Yeah, Miguel really, I think, in a lot of ways started Richard down this path of just like making it seem like it's okay. Yeah, like he already had a few problems, especially because of grand mal seizures. But I think just kind of showing him that it was okay to gloat over these things, to like show that he was
To
a war
glorify
hero,
them.
to glorify him.
Yeah,
And definitely,
especially at his age. Like,
yeah, one of the things I heard too is that his brother or his cousin, because it was his cousin Miguel, had 8 severed, shrunken heads that he brought home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is nuts, that he brought home, kept in his closet where he kept the pictures as well. That he said he would
Real
sleep on.
shrunken
Yeah,
heads.
real shrunken heads that he would sleep on in Vietnam is what he said to his brother, to his cousin.
wow.
He found a peer, right, who was older. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that like hanging out with him, building a, close relationship with him like that, like was acceptable within his family, acceptable within his community. It's like, yeah, he's hanging out with his cousin. Like it's totally fine, this and that and the
Yeah.
other. And he's an older peer. And so like he found his peer group. He found a group where like these types of maybe like fucked up thoughts could be stirred in a way that's like acceptable, and he could talk about it and it could be in the open, and like material starts showing up around it, and like it, I don't know, it's like fertilizing the plot to like grow into the eventual Richard Ramirez that we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miguel basically took him under his wing to teach him about life and the ways of war, as all of the Richard's other brothers and sisters were out of the house. He was the only one around. Most of their talks surrounded how to kill and how to basically get away with it. At 12 years old, he witnessed Miguel shoot and kill his wife in front of him. Miguel told Richard to go home and do not say anything about witnessing a murder or even being there. Afterwards, he will go back to the apartment where Miguel killed his wife with his father to gather some jewelry. Richard said that this was a surreal and mystical experience for him. He opened Miguel's wife's pocketbook and took out the jewelry. Richard would later say touching her things made him feel in contact with her. After this, Richard started to fade out of school and into criminal activities. Obviously, like, this is just like so sad, and it just makes me angry that basically Miguel never got the punishment because,
Well, he went
like,
to jail for 4 years, but that's not a
but
lot for
that's it,
murdering
yeah.
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, but like punishing him for all this, like if you think about it, Richard was in the hands of this guy who's supposed to be like family, a cousin, like a person to look up to or just to trust. And he did all these terrible things, and he basically never got like punishment from it, you know?
I would say if
Mhm.
that was a standard, everybody's Thanksgiving dinner would be a lot smaller.
Yeah.
If like if
Oh, yeah.
everybody in everybody's family, if the
Only 4
people
years.
who influenced folks negatively were just like in prison, A, taxes would be higher. Nobody wants that. B, um, like everybody's Thanksgiving dinner would be like 6 people. Like
Yeah.
it'd be bad.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And this
fuck the dude.
worse. Like it is like Richard basically doesn't see the light of the tunnel because during the summer of 1972, Richard was sent by his parents to LA to visit his brother Ruben. Ruben had gotten into heroin and was breaking into houses to steal. Ruben joined a few other burglars to help break into and fence the stolen items. LA was a mixture of super rich and super poor people at the time and was viewed as the place for criminals to thrive. I mean,
It
yes,
still
because
is.
back,
Yeah.
yeah,
Still
and
is, for
like back
sure.
in the day, there were a lot of like serial killers and criminals in LA. I mean, like it was
Glad
the
we're over
time
that.
for them. We're not. With huge houses, the cinema boom, and drugs were available on every corner, this was the place Richard felt he would be at home. No, Richard, no. Ruben taught Richard how to break into houses and pick locks, and also what to look out for when robbing a house. After that summer, he came back to El Paso with more knowledge on his ever growing career.
See that
Yep.
banana
Like,
peel
Yay.
right
come
there?
on!
You see that banana peel right there? Gonna step around it. All right. Oh, oh shit! Pudding pop. All right. Gonna want to take
Like,
that.
all
All
these
right.
people basically help Richard become who he is.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
he
assign
gravitated
him
towards
to
them
the
too.
point.
Like he
Yeah.
gravitated towards people
Well,
that
he
were
didn't have
not.
anyone.
Well, he did have people that were nice, like Ruth. Honestly, Ruth was a very good student, and Ruth was very good in the community. So he
Yeah,
just
but
didn't
she was
gravitate
doing
towards
her
her.
own thing too. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to justify, but it's like it's like like it's there, and obviously he's a male, so he's trying to look for other males are within his family,
He is. Yeah.
and like I mean, it sucks. It's like again, not trying to justify him, but this really sucks for him.
Yeah, like so his dad, which is kind of funny, like he gravitated to the people that his dad hated because obviously his dad beat him, and was very angry at him most of the time when he'd do in quotations bad things, like acting out like a normal kid, and especially in the situation that he grew up in. His dad hated Ruben. His dad hated Miguel. Obviously, you can look at it as like, obviously, he hated these people because they're terrible influences. But because his dad would tell him not to hang out with these people, he did.
Yeah,
And his father and mother both have said in like when they're interviewed and talked about it that he was the most obstinate child there ever was out of all of the children they had. You could not make him do anything. There was no way you could make him stop hanging out with somebody because he'd find a way to do it.
I mean
So
that's like every other teenager though.
yeah. But
And the
even with
whole time,
punishment,
and the whole
Yeah.
time he was watching his brother, who was like a star athlete on the football team because he had a fifth arm coming out of his head. And he was like one of the best receivers in in the NFL at the time. Like you couldn't hold him down.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
uh, once he went back to El Paso, Richard became a terrible student, obviously, and eventually wouldn't go to school at all. Julian, Richard's father, oh, sorry, Julian, Richard's father, had taught him how to hunt. Let's add more to his plate.
Mhm.
Richard will go out. Richard will go out by himself because his father was mostly away working, and his hero, Miguel, was in jail for killing his wife. Oh, really?
Mm.
Richard would enjoy killing and gutting the animals, just like literally every other serial killer, and then
Slivko.
feeding, yes, and then feeding the entrails to his dog. That's disgusting. He especially liked the way the guts would feel in his hand right after he killed the animal. So, as Richard grew older in his teens, he would start burglarizing homes in El Paso. When he was 16, he got the nickname Dedos, or fingers, because he could steal anything that wasn't nailed down. Um, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm just like, this kid.
So
um,
he's only 16 at this point.
I
Yep.
know that's what I'm saying. Like
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
his brain and his body is absorbing all these things coming at him, and again, not trying to justify him, but remember being at that age, like from 8 to 16, you're trying to find your way, and obviously you gravitate to people that are there and that are giving you the time to like hang out, and you're still trying to figure out like, is this bad, is this good?
Mm-hmm.
I definitely hung out with bad people, but like this kid, especially back in El Paso, like it wasn't like a place with all kinds of people that you could choose, and pick.
Yeah. It
He's
wasn't a
just,
thriving town.
yeah, it's like, what else is he gonna do, and he's just trying to hang out with family, and it happens that he has a very shitty family.
I think, yeah. And like I definitely still put blame on him because it's like anybody at any point could proceed to go down a path of continuously making bad decisions and like I guess embracing their dark side, being like all the impulses that you have where you're just like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. So like accountability needs to fall somewhere with him,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
you know
definitely.
but like but there is, the stars align at a certain point, and it's just like, wow, there's a lot of opportunities for him to go real deep on his bad tendencies.
Real quick.
like
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he
like
does.
it's not just kind of like but it's just like, I'm gonna get a PhD and like
Mm-hmm.
early snuff porn, like oof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and he totally does, because El Paso was just basically his training ground to get prepared for his move to LA. He loved the feeling of stealing from homes, but the even greater feeling was doing it and not being caught. And, we all kind of have that feeling, that if we don't get caught, we get excited and we're like, yay, let's do it again. uh, not me, mom. Okay, not me. So yeah, Richard started thinking about how he could move to LA. He hatched a plan knowing that he could get weed for cheap in El Paso. Yay. And then he would sell it for more in LA. So he brought a lot of weed with him from El Paso and then moved to LA to sell it. Great business idea.
It's the American dream right there.
I
Mm-hmm.
know. He quickly noticed the broken down shambles, the sex workers, and the drug users in downtown LA. He felt right at home here. His first year in LA, he got addicted to cocaine. In his eyes, cocaine unlocked the door to the side of his mind where the devil could reside. So sad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To support his cocaine habits, he broke into many houses and fenced the items. Within a year and a half of living in LA, he started stealing cars to live in. He would live in them for a few days and then drop them off somewhere else and do it to another car, and so on.
That is some
During this,
I will just say that is some ballsy shit where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
you're not just stealing a car, but you're stealing a car to live in.
Yep.
Like you're gonna be like
Just for a couple of
6
days.
blocks away, and you're just gonna be like, yeah, this is just my Airbnb for the week.
yes,
Like,
he
like
was
what
the
the fuck?
original Airbnb. Maps and neighborhoods in LA. This will help him in the future to escape police and capture.
Holy shit.
Nice.
Yeah, he did his
Yeah, he
homework.
got
Not
smart.
nice.
That's
I
no.
mean,
That is his cousin's influence coming in.
Yep.
Like I'm
yes,
sure the
yes,
military strategy shit, where he's like, "Yeah, we went
yeah.
into the village at night and da 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 da," and this and that. And you're like, who the fuck gets high on cocaine and looks at maps besides Christopher Columbus? But like, who the fuck gets
He
high on
did-
cocaine?
He didn't look at maps. He
I
just
just-
sailed.
That's just like this dude had the mindset of a fucking coke addict. Like he was already like a high level professional coke addict, like living the life, but like before the coke addiction, he was already like fucking skilled at going in and doing shit. Totally basically like on the edge of like being okay with killing people. You know what I'm saying? Okay with like basically being about that life and being close to that fucking life. He was a professional burglar, all the shit like that. Then he got the like I almost feel like cocaine was his excuse to just
Yeah.
continue on with the shit he was already fantasizing about and like growing into. Like I
Yeah,
don't know.
that was like his escape to just be himself. Quotations. Because people can't see me doing this. So quotes. Yeah, I mean, Richard also started using PCP.
Hell yeah.
One night, a woman approached him to see if she could score some angel dust. They went back to her apartment and smoked. He came onto her after they had finished smoking, and she politely declined. Instead of him leaving and going downstairs, he went to the roof and climbed down the fire escape into her room. He tied her up and raped her. This was the first time he had overcome a woman, and he loved the feeling of it. This is like his first victim, basically.
This was the
Mhm.
beginning, yeah. And this was really crazy because she didn't just decline. She said, "I'm not into men." She said, "I like women." And so in a way I was like, she's polite, like, "Hey," and like that's her choice, her what she wants. But he's just like, you know what would be better if I did this? So he started going through thinking about what his brother Miguel had showed him, and I think this is it clicking for him, is like, oh well, maybe I would feel better if I did take advantage of her. And it's like, this is the first time he starts getting into it, because he had actual sexual relations with people before. So this wasn't like his first time or anything, like having sex. He had a girlfriend a long time ago, and they would actually sleep together when he was, I think, 16. They would sleep together in the cemetery. So, which was a very
Hot.
interesting part of it. They would have sex in the cemetery, also at, random houses. And she was, I think, about 4 years younger than him.
Wow.
So she was 12.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. She was like
Not
12.
Wow.
Not
And
hot.
so,
Not
yeah, it was not. Yeah, it was very bad.
God damn it.
But that was the relationship he had before that. And supposedly he had also, after that time, he had been hiring sex workers as well, on and off, while he was in LA. So he kind of had a lot of experience through it, but this was the first time I think he started living his own fantasies.
It
Yeah,
clicked
yeah,
that
yeah.
he didn't just have to masturbate to the photos anymore. Like he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is the perfect opportunity for me to live out what I've been like fucking yeah."
After this experience, Richard found the book The Satanic Bible, written by Anton LaVey. Richard stole a car and visited LaVey in San Francisco. He wanted to be among others that follow Satan. Jesus, it just this
All
kid.
right.
Like, come on.
LaVey's
Oh.
like, "Whoa, get away from me, bro."
I
Like,
know.
Maybe.
Oh my god, yeah. Richard attended a ceremony with Anton LaVey and said that he felt the touch of Satan,
Mhm.
Hell
which
yeah.
is not
Literally.
good.
Anton LaVey also
Oh.
said that he was a very shy, nice guy.
Mm. Wow. Okay.
On his resume going into jail. So, Mr. A. LaVey, stellar review. He said you like well, you don't speak up a lot. When you do, very informed, very educated, and very observant. So we should be aware when you're coming into our penitentiary that you might not say anything for like the first 5-6 days, but when you do on that, 6th, 7th day, everybody's going to take notice. So we're taking that in, and we normally don't do this, but you're welcome to join the quilt committee. Everybody! Thanks, guys. Like, sorry. like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, once he returned to LA, Richard started reading Anton's second book and became a much
Satanic
different.
Bible, Part 2.
Yeah.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yes.
Yeah, after that, obviously, Richard became a much, much different person. He was serious and mean-eyed. Gone were the days of a shy-looking, beautiful hair boy that was. I mean, he was
His
cute
hair did not
before.
stop being beautiful.
He still had
He had
that.
nice hair.
He still had that Head and Shoulders hair.
Yeah.
Mane and tail.
Um,
Mane and tail. His whole life, he stuck with that mane and tail, and that's what I tell everybody. Please sponsor us.
Slowly, days became months, and months became a year of robbing houses and using drugs. He stopped brushing his teeth. Oh my god, gross. Ate only sweets, make it worse. Don't brush your teeth and eat sugar. And of course, he drank only soda, so he didn't shower and smelled terrible and didn't brush his teeth. Like, why?
Ugh,
Like,
yeah.
why?
Yeah, his teeth were rotten, and he had
Mhm.
halitosis.
Mm-hmm.
What's
Like,
halitosis?
how are you not in pain?
It's like medically bad breath.
Whoa. So, he basically reverted to being a 14-year-old. Like a 14-year-old stereotypical boy. Of like, I'm just drinking Monster. I'm fucking pounding the Surge, bro. Playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Yes, I'm that old. And fucking eating candy tonight. And but it was like a medical disorder. And seriously, you should reconsider your life if you're that age. What was he, like 12 at this point? How old was he now? He's
Yeah,
like 17?
He's
yeah,
like
he's
16 or
16.
17 at this point.
16? Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. Nobody noticed this incredibly young kid man doing all this shit. I don't know.
It was
I mean,
And he was-
way back
I'm
when.
sure they
Yeah.
did because during this time he basically stopped visiting his family and became strange. During the mid 1983, Ruth came to try and visit Richard and take him back home to El Paso. Ruth found him downtown at a bus terminal. Richard took Ruth back to his hotel room and he sat down and started shooting up cocaine right in front of her.
Mhm.
She tried to beg him to stop and to come home with her, but Richard just looked like a completely different person and he declined her and basically said, I belong here where I am protected by Satan. Satan represents how I feel. So obviously his sister just left and just went back to El Paso because yeah, at this point, there's nothing you can do. He's just straight up doing drugs in front of her and talking about Satan. I would have been like, okay, bye.
Yeah. Yeah, so think about
Yeah.
it, like he's 23 now, during mid 1983, born in 60. So he's 23. He's been doing drugs for a long time. He's probably been robbing houses since he was like 10. Smoking pot since he was 10, which is, whatever. But yeah, which is whatever.
And strangely, it helped with his seizures, smoking
Yeah,
weed.
it did. What's funny is
Oh,
it's crazy. It
wow,
helped with
yeah.
his seizures and he stopped having them.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
didn't stop having emotional outbreaks.
No.
Mm.
That was severe
Yeah.
PTSD.
Yeah.
but there's not a lot of dedicated potheads that are also serial killers. I will
Mhm.
say that there's got to be another side to them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
So his-
after
Unless
she
they're
left,
cannibals.
Yeah.
after Ruth left, he was basically left alone and got addicted to cocaine and PCP, and he just basically committed his first rape. Was burglarizing homes for money to fuel his drug addiction, and just looked basically like a demon at this point. Like
Damn.
I don't know how else would you describe that.
Mhm.
But yeah, he still had great hair.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
ugly, demon-like, but great hair.
A demon with an angel's hair.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
crazy
it's
thing,
so sad.
the amount of women that fell in love with him
Because of
during
his
the
Yep.
hair.
trial. Like they thought he was hot and stuff, and like in most of the photos he's not showing his teeth, but in the ones
Ugh.
that he looks busted.
But his
Yeah, yeah,
ratings
yeah.
went up in Britain immediately. So
Uh,
like it just shifted across the pond.
That's hilarious.
I'm
Yeah.
saying that as somebody with fucked up British teeth. But my last name's Bentley. You Brits can figure that out. We're good.
I mean, like, what's insane is that his life was basically falling apart, and he was basically in hell. But to
Well,
him, he
yeah.
basically felt like he had just found the meaning to his life. In a way, he was happy, and he felt like he belonged.
Yeah, like he was raised pretty much as a criminal, and now he's making a living being a criminal. He has access to drugs. Like he's happy. It's not his hell, it's his heaven. It would be
Yeah.
someone
Mhm.
else's hell. But to him it's perfect. He's got the perfect setup. And he just
Yeah.
raped someone, so now he's like on top of the world. Like he's like, I can have power over people now. I can have what I want when I want it, and no one's gonna stop me.
A
Yeah.
fucked up relativity. Like he could go to his cousin and be like, dude, check out my life. And he'd be like, yas, bro. Like it's a good thing in his fucked up bubble that's formed, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Damn.
it's crazy because all this is happening, all these people are adding into it, and no one knows that they're basically creating one of the most feared men in California in United States history.
Mm-hmm.
To it's insane because for the at least 13 people, he was about to become the embodiment of death, raping and torturing his victims. He's also about to come to the time where he shows us why they call him the Midnight Stalker.
Thank you for listening to the Black Cat Report and our episode on Richard Ramirez, the Midnight Stalker. Stay tuned for next week for part 2 of our 3-part series. Please remember to like, review, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you can be notified right away as a new episode is aired. We release episodes every Saturday or Sunday. Please follow our Instagram page for all the new updates as well. We'll see you on the other side.